Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Jeep Tracks. Today we're going to make tracks to Central City, Colorado. Now, when you mention Central City, most locals around here, they think of gambling, casinos, but you know what? Central City has so much more to offer, and it played such a huge part of the history of Colorado and the Colorado that we know today. We're going to start off in Clear Creek Canyon, also known as US Highway 6. You're going to take like Highway 58 through Golden, and that's where it dead ends. And Highway 6 is also called the Clear Creek Canyon. We're going to head west on this. Now, the road is fairly heavily traveled, and there's a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit, but the scenery through there is amazing, and you're going to be following Clear Creek, and they've just added some parking spaces up there for the trailheads. It's really nice, and it's really changed a lot over the years. We first come into Blackhawk, but you know what? We're going to ignore Blackhawk today because we're going to highlight where it all started, Central City, which came into existence when John H. Gregory, on May 6th of 1859, found a gold-bearing vein in what he named Gregory Gulch, and that was in between what would be known as Blackhawk and Central City. Now, John Gregory, he came from Georgia, and he came from a mining family, and he had heard about the gold fields in the Sierra Nevadas of California and the gold rush that was going on in Canada, and he was on his way to Canada when he was spending his winter in Laramie, Wyoming. Well, that's when the Pikes Peak Gold Rush got started. He decided to head south. He went down along the Vasquez Fork of the South Platte River, following each fork as he went along, eventually leading him to what became known as Gregory Gulch. It was here that he found the rock that he was looking for and eventually the gold that he sought. By 1860, there were over 10,000 prospectors who came to that area, and John Gregory, he was instrumental in drawing up the rules which would eventually become law concerning Colorado mining operations. He gave up his mining interests when the Civil War broke out, and he returned to Georgia. And that's when he enlisted in the Confederate Army. He was captured by Union forces and was held as a prisoner in Indianapolis, Indiana. It was there that John H. Gregory died of complications of diarrhea on January 22nd of 1865. Now, as we said, over 10,000 prospectors were populating the area in the beginning, but you know what? Most of them returned and headed back east. By 1900, the census showed a population of just 3,114 people remaining. Another great tribute to Central City is it's the first railroad in Colorado. It started in Denver and it made its way to Central City. And at this time, Golden was nothing more than a tent camp for prospectors heading up for the gold rush in Gilpin County. And this camp was organized by a businessman and a railroad dreamer, W.A.H. Loveland. I'm sure you've heard his name before. Colorado was not even a state yet. He was a pioneer in railroads. He had set out to start a railroad from Denver to Cheyenne in hopes of connecting passengers to the West Coast and connecting passengers on the Union Pacific line to the newly formed city of Denver. Now, Union Pacific did not want anything to do with Colorado. In fact, the vice president of Union Pacific scoffed at the idea, stating, "It's too dead to bury," referring to Colorado. Now, Mr. Loveland believed that money was not in mining but rather in mercantile, and another gentleman by the name of George West, well, he had the same idea. And both men had a friendly competition as to who was going to complete their stores first in what would become Golden along Clear Creek. With the help of investors, the Colorado and Clear Creek Railroad Company was chartered on February 9th of 1865. Loveland and his partners desired to build a standard gauge railroad up Clear Creek Canyon to Central City and onward to other mining areas like Idaho Springs. Between the time the railroad was first chartered and before construction began, the name changed to Colorado Central and Pacific Railroad. Then in June of 1867, the company was again reorganized, and although Union Pacific then held control, they provided absolutely no funding to build the railroad. Then on January 1st of 1868, construction began connecting Denver to Golden. And on January 14th of that year, again the name changed to what we now know as the Colorado Central Railroad. In May of 1871, investors took control away from Union Pacific, and by September of 1871, there were 150 men at work constructing the first portion of the line to link Golden to the mining communities. In 1872, the company acquired the right-of-way up Clear Creek Canyon to complete the railway, and instead of a standard gauge, they opted for a narrow gauge, which was only a 3-foot track width. And then by September of 1873, Jay Gould and other Union Pacific investors had contributed a fairly large stake in the Colorado Central Railroad. However, W.A.H. Loveland, he held the controlling interest. By the time Colorado Central was completed, it connected Denver to Golden, Golden to Blackhawk and Central City. And if you know where that junction is at US 6 and Highway 119, well, it split off there and went to Idaho Springs. Now, this was a major economic advantage to all three cities, as supplies, mail, and passengers had easy access to the mining booms. Because Idaho Springs was only 8 miles from Central City, prior to the railroad, a road had been built connecting Idaho Springs and Central City, and this road was called Virginia Canyon Road. However, it's better known as Oh My God Road, as it sits on the sides of mountains and it's a rather treacherous road. It also passed through Russell Gulch, and today there are some remnants remaining of Russell Gulch, including a school. There's also the IOOF Hall and some foundations and a few collapsing mine structures. Oh My God Road is a neat drive and the road is narrow, but please adhere to the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, as there's really not a lot of room for error here. And there's a lot of steep cliffs and drop-offs, and it's not protected by guardrails. You'll see many other mining structures on this beautiful and scenic route. Now, in its heyday, Central City had a large population of Chinese immigrants who worked building the railroad, and they worked in placer mining. The Chinese were not allowed to work in the underground mines. However, they made money in placer operations, and then most returned home with the small fortunes that they had made. By 1900, Central City population, as we said, dropped to 3,114 people as production in the mines began to dwindle. By 1920, the veins were exhausted. The town's population dwindled again, down into the hundreds by 1950, and essentially, these towns became ghost towns. A revitalization of gambling and a referendum in 1990 reintroduced gambling to Colorado, and then Blackhawk and Central City since then have been in a boom like that of the gold rush days. On June 24th of 1869, construction began on a new two-story school for Gilpin County. It opened October 24th of 1870. Today, that school is the home to the Gilpin County Museum, and it's open for visitors. And there's so much here to see, including a submarine. Yes, a mountain submarine. I'm not even going to tell you about it. You have to go see for yourself. You have to check this out. You'll find so much on the history of Central City, Blackhawk, Russellville, Nevadaville, and some of the other settlements of that area, and about Gilpin County, and the people who live there and the businesses that thrive. Please come and check it out. Now, another place you want to see is the Thomas House. It was originally built in 1867. Now, the Thomas family purchased the home around 1895, and it remained in the family as a summer home until 1987. It is now also a museum, and it remains almost as it did in the 1800s. And here we're looking at Washington Hall. Now, keep in mind, this is the oldest continually used public building in the state of Colorado. It was once the Gilpin County Courthouse and jail, and it was built using hand-hewn logs back in 1862. Today, it is also home to the Gilpin County Historical Society. It was replaced with the current courthouse in 1900. There are also tours available at the Central City Opera House, the Masonic Lodge, the Coeur d'Alene Mine, the Teller House. And the Teller House was once built as one of the finest hotels west of Chicago. And you're also going to find the famous Face on the Barroom floor painting. And then you can also see the St. James Methodist Church, the very first Protestant church in the state of Colorado. You'll find gift shops, antiques, and of course, various casinos. There's so much history here, and it's so easy to access that history in the stories of Gilpin County, Central City, Blackhawk, the other communities. Gilpin County and Central City have done an amazing job of preserving the history, researching the history, and refurbishing the structures of the area. I encourage you to come and spend a day. Tours are available at the Gilpin County Historical Office, which is located at 117 Eureka Street. Visit their website, gilpinhistory.org. Once again, gilpinhistory.org. Also, make sure to check out the museum, and that's at the old courthouse, and the address is 228 East First High Street. Now, there are plenty of places here to eat, plenty of parking, and it's a trip that is fun and educational for everybody. What a great way to spend a weekend day. For my off-road enthusiasts, there are plenty of trails around the area, including mild to wild. Look at your topographical map to find them, and if you're a paranormal enthusiast like I am, you're going to find many ghost encounters and cemeteries to visit. We go up here on a regular basis, and our ghost box goes off. We have a lot of electromagnetic energy that goes off. Our heat sensors pick things up, and we get a lot of EVPs. We're going to be highlighting our paranormal investigation starting this summer with a new channel that we'll announce in May. So we're going to close out this video with a drive over Oh My God Road, and next week we're going to take a trip to Idaho Springs. We're going to tell you how the railroad helped build that town, and there's plenty to see and do there also, and we might even do some tours. So make sure to hit the notification button so that you know when the next video is out. And please hit like and subscribe and share this video with your friends. Until next week, get outside.